My parents sent me to boarding school at 8. Now they want my help finding my criminal brother who stole their money. I never imagined I would share this story here, but recent events have compelled me to break my silence. This is a story about my childhood, my parents, and most importantly, about my younger brother Felix, a tale that has been weighing heavily on my heart for far too long. From the outside, we appeared to be the perfect family. My father had established himself as a renowned conductor, while my mother was celebrated as an accomplished concert pianist. Music wasn't just a part of our lives, it was everything our household revolved around. Yet beneath this harmonious facade, there was never room for genuine family connections or emotional bonds. When I turned 8, my parents made a decision that would alter the course of my life forever. They sent me to an elite boarding school in Switzerland. "This is for your future, Thomas. You'll receive the finest education possible," they assured me. But even then, I understood the unspoken truth. They simply didn't have time for a child in their lives. Those initial years at boarding school were marked by profound loneliness and isolation. While my classmates returned home each weekend to loving families, I remained behind, surrounded by the cold stone walls of the institution. My parents were perpetually too occupied. There were always concerts to perform, rehearsals to attend, or tours to complete. In those solitary moments, my violin became my sole companion, and I would practice for countless hours each day. Perhaps deep down, I harbored the naive hope that if I could just become exceptional enough, they would finally take notice of my existence. The halls of that boarding school became both my sanctuary and my prison. Each passing day reinforced the painful lesson that in my parents' world of perfect pitch and standing ovations, there was little room for the messy, imperfect nature of raising a child. I learned to find solace in the structured routine of practice rooms and music sheets, building walls around my heart as solid as those that surrounded me. Everything changed when Felix entered our lives. I was 10 years old when my brother was born, and immediately I noticed a stark difference in how he was raised. Unlike me, Felix remained at home with our parents, though their demanding careers meant they were rarely present in any meaningful way. They employed a rotating cast of nannies and housekeepers to attend to his daily needs while they continued their relentless pursuit of musical excellence. During my infrequent visits home, the contrasts in our upbringing became increasingly apparent and painful to witness. While I lived under the strict regimen of boarding school life, with its rigid schedules, high expectations, and unwavering discipline, Felix existed in a world without boundaries. Our parents, perhaps compensating for their physical absence, showered him with material possessions and minimal oversight. He never learned the valuable lessons that come from hearing no or facing consequences for his actions. As the years passed, I channeled all my energy into my music, striving for the perfection our parents seemed to value above all else. I achieved the position of first violinist in the school orchestra and collected an impressive array of competition victories. Yet each triumph felt hollow, marked only by formal congratulatory cards from my parents, who never once attended my performances. Their absence spoke volumes, echoing through concert halls as loudly as any symphony. Meanwhile, Felix's behavior grew increasingly concerning. By 13, he had become a frequent visitor to the principal's office, his academic performance suffering as he tested every boundary he could find. At 15, his first encounter with law enforcement signaled a darker turn in his journey. Yet our parents remained absorbed in their careers, addressing these issues with money and distance rather than the presence and guidance Felix so desperately needed. The parallels weren't lost on me. Two brothers, both neglected in different ways, both searching for attention and validation through increasingly divergent paths. While I sought approval through achievement and perfection, Felix chose rebellion and defiance. We were two sides of the same coin, products of a household where music filled every room but couldn't mask the emptiness of absent parents. Yesterday marked a turning point in our family's complicated history. After years of minimal contact, nothing more than obligatory holiday greetings and brief, awkward phone calls, my mother's voice cracked through the speaker of my phone, heavy with desperation. Felix had vanished. taking with him a substantial sum from their accounts. The irony of the situation wasn't lost on me. After years of emotional distance, they were suddenly reaching out, seeking my help in their moment of crisis. The night that followed was a blur of endless phone calls and desperate searching. I tapped into every connection I had maintained from my boarding school days, reaching out to old classmates who had scattered across Europe. Each dead end only fueled my determination. Though I couldn't quite explain why I felt so compelled to help, perhaps it was the tremor in my mother's voice, the first real emotion I'd heard from her in years. Or maybe it was the lingering sense of responsibility I still felt for my younger brother, despite our estrangement. As dawn began to break, casting long shadows across my apartment, a lead finally emerged. Felix had checked into a modest hotel near the French border, using an alias I recognized from our childhood games. The discovery brought both relief and dread. The situation was far worse than our parents knew. Felix wasn't just running from them or their money. He was fleeing from substantial gambling debts that had spiraled far beyond his control. The pieces of the puzzle began falling into place. The increasingly erratic behavior, the desperate requests for money that our parents had mentioned in passing, the strange phone calls at odd hours that I'd ignored. All signs pointed to a deeper problem that had been brewing for years, hidden beneath the surface of our family's polished facade. While our parents had been performing on stages across Europe, their younger son had been performing his own desperate dance with addiction and debt. The weight of this knowledge settled heavily on my shoulders as I pieced together the extent of Felix's troubles. The gambling debts weren't just substantial, they were dangerous. He had borrowed from people who didn't take kindly to being avoided, and his flight wasn't just about escaping our parents' disappointment, it was about survival. Now I find myself sitting in my parked car outside the hotel, the engine cooling in the pre-dawn darkness. Felix remains unaware of my presence, and this moment of solitude forces me to confront the most difficult decision I've ever faced. Two clear choices lie before me. I can alert our parents and the authorities, setting in motion the wheels of justice and consequence, or I can help my brother escape, becoming complicit in his flight from responsibility. The gravity of this decision weighs heavily on my conscience. Felix has undeniably betrayed our family's trust, draining accounts that represented years of our parents' hard work. Yet, as I sit here contemplating my next move, I can't help but reflect on the deeper layers of betrayal that have shaped our lives. Weren't we both betrayed in our own ways by parents who chose the spotlight over their children's emotional needs? Through the windshield, I watch the first rays of sunlight pierce the morning fog, knowing that time is running out. The responsible course of action seems clear. I should call the police. Let the law handle this situation. My training at boarding school, all those years of rigid discipline and moral instruction, points unequivocally toward this path. Yet my heart rebels against this seemingly obvious choice. In my mind's eye, I see two young boys, one sent away to become the perfect son, the other left behind to raise himself in the shadows of absent parents. One buried his pain in endless hours of violin practice, while the other sought escape in increasingly dangerous pursuits. We were both victims of the same emotional neglect, just manifesting our wounds in drastically different ways. As I reach for the car door handle, I realize this story transcends the simple narrative of Felix's betrayal. It's a testament to how families can silently crumble when careers and acclaim take precedence over love and presence. The true betrayal isn't just in the money Felix took, but in the years of emotional absence that led us all to this moment. The morning sun now fully illuminates the hotel's facade, and I know my time for deliberation has run out. Whatever choice I make in these next few moments will define not just Felix's future, but my own moral compass as well. Perhaps the real question isn't about right or wrong, but about whether it's possible to heal the deep wounds of childhood neglect through one pivotal decision. That morning, as I sat in my car outside the hotel, I made a decision that would change both our lives. Instead of calling our parents or the police, I went to talk to Felix. What I found wasn't the defiant brother I expected, but a broken young man desperate for help. We spent hours talking, really talking, for the first time in years. Together, we called Aunt Helga, our mother's sister, who had always been different from the rest of our family. She understood immediately and offered Felix a place to stay in Hamburg. With her help, we also arranged for Felix to enter a gambling addiction program with Dr. Weber, a respected therapist who specialized in cases like his. Now, 6 months later, the transformation in Felix is remarkable. Living with Aunt Helga has given him something he never had before: genuine support and stability. His recovery is progressing well, and he's even started taking classes again. His grades have improved, not because of pressure, but because he finally has a supportive environment. Our weekly piano lessons have become a cherished tradition. Sometimes we talk more than we play music, but that's perfectly fine. He's discovered an extraordinary talent, not just for playing but for composition as well. His pieces are filled with emotion, anger, sadness, but increasingly hope. Last week, he gave his first performance at a school concert. I flew specially to Hamburg to attend. When he played my old piece, Chopin Nocturne, followed by his own composition, I saw tears in Aunt Helga's eyes. She understood what this music represented: a story of two brothers who found their way back to each other despite everything. Our parents weren't at the concert, of course. They sent their usual text, "Hope it goes well. In Dubai, important business meeting." But this time, it didn't hurt as much. Felix and I have learned that family isn't necessarily the people who should have raised us, but those who actually show up for us. Dr. Weber now regularly visits Felix in Hamburg. He's retired, but makes an exception for us. "You two," he said recently, "are the best proof that one can rewrite their own story." He's helped Felix not just with his gambling addiction, but with understanding the deeper wounds that led to it. 2 weeks ago, I received a formal letter from our parents, businesslike as always. They requested we maintain the family honor by not telling anyone about the incidents. In return, they would generously finance Felix's stay with Aunt Helga. They still don't understand that their money was never what we needed. We needed their presence, their love, their attention, things that no bank account could provide. Felix and I laughed about their letter. The irony wasn't lost on us. They're still trying to solve emotional problems with financial solutions. But we're beyond that now. The money they stole from them has been partially repaid through the sale of some of Felix's inherited assets, and Aunt Helga has helped arrange a reasonable repayment plan for the rest. Yesterday, Felix called me with exciting news. He'd received an invitation to a young composer's competition. "Do you think I can do it?" he asked uncertainly, his voice carrying echoes of our shared past insecurities. "Of course you can," I replied. "You're not alone anymore. You were never meant to be my replacement, and I was never meant to be the perfect role model. We're just two brothers finding our own way." Sometimes I think about how different everything could have been if our parents had truly seen us, not as status symbols or burdens, but as their children. But then I remember Dr. Weber's words: "Life doesn't always give us the parents we deserve, but sometimes it gives us the family we need." Felix and I have decided to write down our story, not to expose our parents, but to give hope to other children in similar situations. To show that you can take control of your own narrative, that it's never too late to change your path. Next month, we're giving our first joint concert in Hamburg. 2 pianos, 2 brothers, 1 story. Our parents are invited, but whether they come no longer matters. We're not playing for them. We're playing for ourselves, and for everyone else who needs to find their own melody. That morning at the hotel, I chose my brother over justice. But what I really chose was healing over punishment. Sometimes the hardest choices lead us to exactly where we need to be.